Well, our favorite Florida congressman, Matt Gaetz, is back in the news.
Matt Gaetz, who looks like he wished on a monkey's paw he'd make it in Major League Baseball and instead got Mr. Met's head, leveled a bunch of unhinged conspiracy theories.
Some of the people who breached the Capitol today were not Trump supporters. They were masquerading as Trump supporters and, in fact, were members of the violent terrorist group Antifa.
There are some reports that Antifa sympathizers may have been sprinkled throughout the crowd.
There's always bad actors that will infiltrate large crowds.
We don't know who all were the instigators in this, of these horrible things that happened today. I think a lot of it is the Antifa folks.
But this time it's good. I'm kidding, it's still the sex stuff.
I want to talk about Matt Gaetz and his constant need for attention and, clickbait that he's going after. Not legislation so much as, well, it's Matt Gaetz.
The American people need to understand what just happened. My Democrat colleague just asked the director of the FBI whether or not they are buying information about our fellow Americans, and the answer is, well, we'll just have to get back to you on that. It sounds really complicated, but I have other questions.
What a dumbass. The FBI's been paying informants for 60 years. What the hell are you talking about?
Election fraud really requires two things. One, a very large pool of unaccounted for ballots that aren't attached to a human. And then second is the rapid processing of those ballots. Then they exclude the observers, and then they just wrap those polluted ballots into a broader universe. And I think that is where we're proving the fraud.
I can't even follow the syntax or the metaphors. A large pool of ballots, and then they wrap the pool of ballots into a broader universe of ballots. What does any of that mean?
I'm sitting here with my father. I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father. Sounds like a shakedown, doesn't it, Director?
I'm not going to get into commenting on that.
You seem deeply uncurious about it, don't you?
Because it's all bullshit. Just like everything else on Fox News.
The rumor is that even possibly Antifa insurrectionists possibly could have infiltrated some of these.
Familiar with the case confirms Greenberg told investigators details about how he and Gaetz would pay women for sex with cash and gifts, in possible violation of prostitution and sex trafficking laws.
Almost suspiciously uncurious. Are you protecting the Bidens?
Ooh, he's suspiciously uncurious. What a bunch of bullshit. Talk about uncurious. These people work for Fox.
According to receipts reviewed by CNN, Gaetz and Greenberg used digital payment apps, including Venmo, to send hundreds of dollars to at least one woman who attended these parties.
Absolutely not. The FBI does not and has no interest in
You won't answer the question about whether or not that's a shakedown.
Shakedown, there's a good word. Yeah, it's a shakedown.
Politico has revealed the explosive news that federal agents executed a search warrant and seized Gaetz' phone this past winter.
Don't scroll. Don't scroll. It can't be good when they seize your phone.
Now, we have learned these parties were held at a house in a gated community in suburban Orlando. The women we spoke with said when some of the women arrived, there were rules. For example, the first thing some of them were asked to do is put away their cell phones. Now, one of the women told us the attendees included a who's who of local Republican officials and often included Congressman Gaetz. And these men just did not want their activities at these parties being documented. And we're told folks mingled and shared drugs, including cocaine and ecstasy.
Did they ever make a Florida version of the board game Clue? Gated community in suburban Orlando should be one of the locations, right next to Animal Sanctuary in Tampa.
And everybody knows why you won't answer it. Because to the millions of people who will see this, they know it is. And your inability to acknowledge that is deeply revealing about you. But let's go from...
You know, my grandmother used to say nothing good ever happens after midnight. And I'd say the same is true about anything that happens at a party in a gated community in suburban Orlando where they make you give up your phone.
Let's go from the uncurious to the downright nosy. How many illegal FISA queries have occurred under your leadership of the FBI?
Okay, the Patriot Act was a Republican thing. They wrote it, and they forced it through. FISA was created by the Patriot Act, which was a bunch of bullshit.
Orlando's for two things. going to theme parks, or buying exotic fish from an unlicensed dealer who works out of the back of a pet food store. I got piranhas, lionfish, snakeheads, and for another 100, I'll throw in this bad boy.
Well, there are reports that have come out with different numbers about compliance incidents.
More than 1 million illegal ones? Because that's what the Inspector General said. The Inspector General said that in the 3.4 million of these queries, more than 1 million were in error. Do you have any basis to disagree with that assessment by the Inspector General?
I'm not sure actually that's a correct characterization of the Inspector General's findings on that.
Well, the internet will remind you of that in moments.
The internet? What the fuck, are you a child?
CBS News has learned that investigators are scrutinizing a trip Congressman Matt Gaetz took to the Bahamas with this man, Jason Pierrizzolo, a marijuana entrepreneur, Orlando hand surgeon, and donor to Gaetz.
An Orlando hand surgeon / marijuana entrepreneur. Man, Florida never disappoints.
CBS News reporting that Gaetz' trip to the Bahamas is part of a federal probe into this sex trafficking allegation. Here's a little bit of it. Federal investigators are looking into a Bahamas trip Matt Gaetz allegedly took in late 2018 or early 2019 as part of an inquiry into whether the Florida representative violated sex trafficking laws, who allegedly paid for the travel expenses, accommodations, and female escorts.
I'm shocked Gaetz wasn't also buds with an alligator named Rick who sold CBD oil on the Miami Beach boardwalk. And now the heat on Gaetz is intensifying to the point where Republicans don't know how to respond.
But let's now go to what the court said. The court said it was over 200,000 that have occurred on your watch. Do you have any basis to disagree with that assessment?
Again, I don't have the number as I sit here right now. What I can
Seems like a number you should know.
Matt Gaetz clip art, that's all this is.
Do you have confidence in him?
Well, you know, we've heard a lot of stories. I mean, obviously I've read the media reports, but there's been nothing that we've seen yet from the Department of Justice. If something's going on, obviously we'll find out about it. You know, right now it's hard to speculate on rumors, but, you know, if something really formal happened from justice, we would, of course, react and take action.
It's so funny to watch Republicans get flustered by questions about Gaetz after they let him take center stage for so long. Look, I don't know the facts, but if the allegations about ecstasy-fueled house party, the dude who was later indicted for sex trafficking and flights to the Bahamas are true, then yeah, I think we might do something about it, right?
How many times the FBI's breaking the law under your watch, especially if it's like over 1 million, to not know that number? And I'm worried about your veracity on the subject as well. Play the video.
Well, I think you can read my essay in the Washington Examiner. I think you can check out the work that your network has done to propagandize lies about me. I think that really ought to concern you, Mono. You've always considered yourself a real journalist, but that doesn't strike me as real journalism.
Are you concerned about the House ethics investigation? Are you going to cooperate with the investigation, sir?
He's asking you whether or not FISA was in any way involved in your January 6th investigation, and you say no. Was that truthful?
I'd say, along with getting your phone seized, being chased down a flight of stairs by a crowd of reporters and getting hustled into the backseat of a waiting car isn't a sign that things are going great.
I said that I did not believe it was.
Okay, so now let's pull up what the court said.
Matt Gaetz, who looks like all the dudes from American Pie combined, reportedly sent $900 on Venmo to an alleged sex trafficker who then forwarded that same exact amount to 3 young women in payments labeled tuition and school.
That's classic corrupt politician stuff. Stop spreading lies about me. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to be rushed into this unmarked van. No one ever in that situation is in it for a good reason.
Which was something a little different than what you said.
But at least Gaetz is taking the allegations seriously. That's why yesterday he spoke at the Women for America First Summit, which is a nice change to see women pay for an hour with Matt Gaetz.
Everyone else in the world seems to be developing capabilities and being more strategic. We got time to embrace critical race theory at West Point, to embrace socialism at the National Defense University, to do mandatory pronoun training. Do you assess?
You know, it's again, this is the most capable, the most combat critical force in the world. It has been, and it will be so going forward.
Not if we continue down this path. Not if we embrace socialism. You guys said that Russia would overrun Ukraine in 36 days. You totally blew those calls. And maybe we would be better at them if the National Defense University actually worked a little more on strategy and a little less on wokeism.
Has it occurred to you that Russia has not overrun Ukraine because of what we've done and our allies have done?
It seems the Biden administration is trying to destroy our military by force-feeding it wokeism.
Do they genuinely believe our soldiers no longer know how to fire a rifle because they are buried in homework from pronoun class? Does he think they arrive on the battlefield and the sergeant barks out, "All right, Bravo team, go around the left flank and tell the enemy they're beautiful just the way they are. Charlie team, Circle those drums. The rest of you, into the Prius.
So here, nope, that's not the right one. This past week has been full of encouragement. From President Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Jim Jordan.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Did you think those were good character references? Who was next on his list? The ghost of Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah, here we go. Right there. It says, the government has reported additional significant violations of the querying standard, including several relating to the January 6, 2021 breach of the Capitol.
Boy, he's busted January 6th wide open. Now we know the truth.
This is the state of the modern GOP, an authoritarian movement intent on dismantling democracy and suppressing dissent.
Not know when you were answering these questions that the FBI was engaging in these illegal searches, or did you perjure yourself to Senator Lee?
I certainly didn't perjure myself. At the time that I testified in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, I didn't have that piece of information. I will add...
Well, that was a court order. You didn't have that piece of information because the court hadn't yet rendered a judgment. Did you not know?
Nail him to the wall, Matt Gaetz. Quick, get a hammer.
But that's not even what the scam artists like Gaetz are asking for. They just want to whine about wokeism and critical race theory. They don't actually want to cut defense spending.
We're behind in hypersonics. We failed to deter Russia. Last year,
so what do you mean we're behind in hypersonics? How do you?
Okay, who's ahead in hypersonics?
How do you make that assessment?
I don't know. I make that assessment because China is fielding hypersonic weapon systems, and we are still developing.
You know we're behind in hypersonics. I don't know. Do you know what a hypersonic is? I know that according to Sarah Palin, they do a lot of hypersonicing.
Because the court hadn't yet rendered a judgment. Did you not know when you gave the untruthful answer before Senator Lee that this was going on?
It was a truthful answer. I did not believe FISA had been involved in the January 6th
But it was. So you didn't. The answer is the FBI has broken so bad that people can go and engage in queries that when you come before the Congress to answer questions, you're like blissfully ignorant. You're blissfully ignorant as to the unlawful queries. You're blissfully ignorant as to the Biden shakedown regime.
We're changing the subject. He doesn't want to hear the answer.
And it just seems like it gets into a kind of a creepy place as well. Go to our next.
These people, Trump, Palin, Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, are very much the present and the future of the Republican Party, which is terrifying for many reasons.
Like, just so the American people realize, FBI personnel apparently conducted queries for improper personal reasons. People were looking themselves up. They were looking their ex-lovers up. Who has been held accountable or fired as a consequence of the FBI using the FISA process as their, like, creepy personal snoop machine?
There have been instances in which individuals have had disciplinary action and who are no longer with it. I can't get into it here, but we can follow back up with you.
But don't you see...
Were they fired? Well, actually, yes, they were. I can tell you about it in a minute. Oh, well, that's not good enough. We're changing the subject.
Don't you see that that's kind of the thing, Director Wray, that you preside over the FBI that has the lowest level of trust in the FBI's history? People trusted the FBI more when J. Edgar Hoover was running the place than when you are.
And leaving out the Trump part is like saying there were a lot of jokes at the Oscars that Will Smith did like.
He doesn't want to hear the answer.
And the reason is because you don't give straight answers. You give answers that later a court deems aren't true. And then at the end of the day, you won't criticize an obvious shakedown.
Ooh, shakedown. There it is again. Tell you what, it's a vocabulary word, ladies and gentlemen. Shakedown.
We're facing a litany of serious existential crises right now, from impending climate disaster to the pandemic to wealth inequality. And one of our two major political parties is consumed by imagined moral panics and unhinged conspiracy theories.
When it's directly in front of us, and it appears as though you're whitewashing the conduct of corrupt people.
Impressive. Most impressive, Matt Gaetz.
Respectfully, Congressman, in your home state of Florida, the number of people applying to come work for us and devote their lives working for us is up over 100%.
There are so many of these crazy people, it's hard to keep track of their names, whether it's Matt or Sarah or Marjorie or...
I don't know.
Matt Gaetz plays for the camera for YouTube clips, so he can, show his constituents, see, I really nailed him to the wall. He didn't actually want any answers. He's not going for information. Because he's Matt Gaetz. His voters don't want information.
We're deeply proud of them, and they deserve better than you.
What's that called? Oh, that's right. A low information voter. Wow. It's a good thing Matt Gaetz is from Florida. Y'all take it easy. I'm Zachariah, Lone Star Liberal.
He's supposed to be one of the leaders of the next wave of Trumpism. And now, like so many others in Trump's inner circle, he's found himself in legal hot water. Who knows what'll happen to him, but if he does get taken away by the feds, I hope we can send him off like this.